No, seriously, stop it. Yeah, you guys are presenting.
Yeah, I saw her on Sunday.
I didn't want to tell you.
And she.
Thank you.
No.
That's what you're very serious.
She's got wrong.
This is actually the back. They didn't say that.
Okay. All right, perfect.
At 2026 going. No. She'll probably find me one of those. It's funny having to transfer everything. It's like, I spent the whole.
Right, well, thanks everybody for joining us here today. Apologies for starting a little bit late, we're not too late, we're waiting for a couple.
Needs to be done
Done. Just trying to see if we have everything all set, I'm hearing an echo, but maybe not. Yeah, okay. So thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Parro from the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission. We are here in our building and on Zoom. This is an informational meeting outlining all resources available to those in Lincoln County who need heating assistance and how to access them. As far as a couple of issues or items I wanted to start with, let's start with housekeeping. So for those of you on Zoom, Laura Graziano, who is my colleague here at the Planning Commission, is providing Zoom support. So for those of you who are online, please stay on mute. If you could wait to ask questions until the Q&A section at the end of the meeting, that'd be great. We're going to hear from our guests first, but if you have a timely question, feel free to put that in the chat. Laura's going to be monitoring that as will I. For those of you who are in the room, most importantly, we have two restrooms, one located in our back hallway and one in the front room. The accessible restroom is in the back. And again, please wait to ask questions until the Q&A section. But if you have something you need to clarify, feel free to just raise your hand. We have about 14 participants on Zoom and a handful of you in the room here. So I'm not going to do introductions of everybody, which is something we love doing, but just to save on time. But when you do ask questions, feel free to introduce who you are. We always like to know who's in the room. So that takes care of some of the housekeeping pieces. So again, about this meeting, the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, which is housed right here in Wiscasset in this building, us in partnership with Midcoast Maine Community Action, Lincoln County YMCA, Community Navigator Program, the Community Resource Council Community Navigator Program, the Community Home Improvement Program, and the Community Energy Fund of Lincoln County. Wow, that's a lot of organizations. Is hosting this informational meeting outlining all resources available to those in Lincoln County who need heating assistance and how to access those resources. All of you who are here today will leave with a clear understanding of who to reach out to for heating resources, how to apply, what kind of assistance is available, and what is available through the various different heating assistance programs available in Lincoln County. Again, this is Lincoln County based meeting and information session, but some of these programs are available statewide, but many of them are local in nature. This information session is for those who work directly with people in need of heating assistance. It's not intended for the general public who is looking for heating assistance. For that, we always recommend people reach out to their community navigators. So again, this is a meeting that would be great for the following, but not limited to municipal administrators, general assistant staff, library staff, healthcare providers, and school and daycare staff. And of course, first responders as well. So the organizations that you're gonna hear from today are part of a collaborative effort inspired by a request to us to bring together these entities to better serve the public through streamlined communication, better coordination among resources. And this particular effort is aligned with the findings that we learned about in the Lincoln County Social Resilience Project. And in that project, we learned that there's a real need to help community members access resources and improve communications among social support entities and enhance community support networks and cross-sector collaborations. So this meeting today is comes out of that collaborative effort that we've been working on all year together with Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission and the organizations you're gonna hear from today. So this gets us to the actual meat of the meeting. So I'm gonna start with introductions for the folks who are here that we'll hear from today. So if you could just kind of give your name and the organization you're with, and we'll just go down the line, starting with Amber all the way down to Hannah. And then after that, we'll kick off the panel if that's okay. And we'll go back to Amber and Mike, and they can talk about their work. So Amber, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Amber. I am the program manager for the energy programs at Midcoast Maine Community Action.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Pepin. I am the Director of Community Services at Midcoast Maine Community Action.
Hi there, I'm Karen Ann Hager-Smith, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Community Navigation through the Central Lincoln County YMCA.
Good morning, I'm Brittany Gill, and I work with the CHIP program. I'm the Executive Director at CHIP, the Community Housing Improvement Project.
Hi, I'm Hannah Corkum. I'm the Community Navigator with the Community Resource Council.
Great, thank you. Mike and Amber, if you wouldn't mind kicking off the meeting.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for this great introduction and the wonderful opportunity for us to speak with you today. I'm not going to go and reiterate a lot of the important points that Alex had brought up, but some of the things that I do want to emphasize on the fact is that we kind of have two heating seasons in Maine. We have winter and getting ready for winter. So the focus is trying to get everybody ready and warm as long and as much as possible. And with all of our community partners gathered here today, that's one of the most important things is communication with what's going on and how we can go and work together and having that whole unity and community atmosphere that we're trying to go and cultivate for us. One of the largest things that we like to talk about at Midcoast Maine Community Action is our LIHEAP program that is specifically targeted towards individuals that have a low income threshold and trying to make it so that they can get that fuel assistance that keeps them year long for this. Right now, there's a lot of major changes that happened in this program that was rolled out through Maine State Housing. First off, program started on August 1st for this year for a lot of folks. And something that MMCA and our community partners have tried to do was be proactive in scheduling in our appointments. Back in June and July, Amber and her team had gone and started to pre-schedule out some of those appointments. We do have available slots. I don't want people to think that we're closed off right now, but I mean, we are scheduling all the way up until March and April of next year already for some of those applications. The next important aspect that I try to bring to everyone's attention is our target number of applications that we are expected to do for this year. This goal is set out and it's across the entire state, and we are trying to go and target 1,994 applications, which is a little bit less than last year. We were projected to do, well, we did over 2,100 applications. This year, Amber and I's projections, we're probably going to do about 2,200 applications as well. The big thing this year is a push for online applications. A lot of folks have given us feedback and saying, I don't have time to wait, or I want to go and just fill out an application online and do it independently. Maine State Housing has helped provide that forum for people, and we have gone and helped out with that push as well. To date, we have done over 220 online applications for Lincoln and for Saginaw County. I do apologize, some of the numbers that I am going to throw out there are not just geared towards specific Lincoln residents, as MMCA does serve Lincoln and Saginaw County. So just keep that in mind with some of these numbers that do go out. As Amber has started to do, there is an online newsletter that we try to publish every month that keeps people updated with information that's going on. If you want to get involved with that newsletter as well, please let us know. I do have business cards, and then our contact information will be available in the information at the end of this information session as well. But it includes a monthly update, things talking about where our numbers are, what some of our bottlenecks could be for this area, or some of the ways that you could help us with either distributing some of this said information or some of the things that we might not be aware about. The big question is, how do I apply for our LIHEAP services or non-LIHEAP services for this heating assistance year? Right now, as I said, we do have an online application. Midcoast Maine Community Action is usually one of the best ways to get a hold of any information that we might be doing. There are no paper applications this year. That was something that did go away, unfortunately. But you can always go and call our main phone number, 207-442-7963. We are option 1 for that heating assistance program, and you can schedule an online application. Or if you go online or send us a email at energy@mmcacorp.org. You can go and get a hold of our office for any pre-existing questions that folks may have, or if they have questions about our program in general. Again, all this contact information will be released later on. For the LIHEAP application and benefits that are issued out to an individual, it's going to vary from person to person because it's all based on the amount of income that they have, as well as eligible individuals. Some of the barriers that we have noticed that were in this program season is the ability to go and get a real identification form or a proof of citizenship or some documentation that is from a federal government that states that this person is identified as who they are. And that's because LIHEAP is from a federal funding source. We do have some ways to break through those barriers if people do not have access to birth certificates or the real ID driver's license, which is different than a driver's license. One of the biggest things that we talk about is it's got to have that star that's on the top of it. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I'm going to talk about very quickly is that even though we are expected to take on a smaller amount of applications this year for our LIHEAP program, Amber's team has certified almost 30% of the applications already for the year. And we've taken over 700 applications for the year to date already. So that's a very impressive feat for a very small team and a very fast turnaround time, which I'm very impressed with and very happy with. Some of the things that I do want to keep in mind for people is as they are going through the process, gathering said documents, it is going to be about a 30-day wait period. For people to go and get that information, distribute it out, mail it to us, you can email it to us, you can send us a fax. Electronic transmission of information is usually the fastest, but not everybody does have access to that technology. And we do try to go and send out our address on there so people can mail it or drop it off at our location as well. We're trying to work with community partners to be able to go and transmit that information to us electronically, so that will help out with having to save the drive to Bath, Maine. The last aspects, as I want to wrap this up very quickly, is with our LIHEAP season, with that benefit, we have to remember that it's not just the only benefit that you can be eligible for with assistance for fuel. And I talk about with that whole unity and the community approach and aspect, we do have our community partners in here that we're working together for people that are doing that. We're going to be getting into our emergency heating assistance program part of the LIHEAP process. That's going to be effective on November 1st. We call that our ESIP season. So when you have opportunities where a person has less than a quarter of a tank of fuel or product, they have less than 7 days of wood or product that they're using to go and help out to provide heat for them. We do have additional funding that is only up to $500 in addition to your LIHEAP benefit for the year. So we do have some additional opportunities that are out there. The other important piece of information that I do hate to be the bearer of bad news with is that from July 1st of this year to date, I've already sent out assistance. Well, our team has sent out over 50 households of assistance worth of $20 worth of fuel heating assistance already to date. which has exhausted a lot of our funds already, and we have not even gotten into the colder part of the year, which is a concern for us. So we're trying to work together with some of our community partners to be aware, bring awareness to that, as well as seeing like what are some ways that we can back that. There are some great weatherization programs that are in place that we try to push people to for referrals and opportunities to let them know about some of these, as well as giving them an area where they can go and say, oh, I can expand in this. And then there are some other great programs in the community that can talk about ways to take advantages of some of those tax saving measures that can be used when you're doing that as well. So that's why we're working together as a team. The Y Heat program itself, the last thing that I want to go and bring to your attention is going to be from August 1st until May 31st, or until funds run out. One of the big things that people are worried about is with the government shutdown that's going on, that to my knowledge does not impact people getting benefits right now. Things are still being processed because it's not the government that's sending out the money, it's Maine State Housing, and then they're subcontracted through, which is where we receive those funds. So payments are still going out the door. We're still processing applications. We're still going to be making sure that people are getting the services that we can do. Last year for the Lincoln County area, we had done over 700 benefits that were issued out to households, or 700 households. And it was for about $350,000 worth of fuel and heating assistance just for the LIHEAP program itself. So this is one of the larger areas that does get hit with that assistance, but we are still able to go and help out with that, and we're still gonna be able to make sure that people do get assistance. I don't know if there's anything you wanna add, Amber, as more the
Sure.
day-to-day operations or site
As
plans?
of October 6th of this year, we did receive our most recent certified report. To date, we have certified 170 applications, and we have, that will result in $87,000, that will go out to Maine families in our area. Our certifiers work around 20 to 25 applications a day, so we are continuing to exceed these numbers, as we speak. I did wanna touch on the proof of citizenship requirement. One of the things that I want to drive home is that proof of citizenship and proof of identification are two separate categories. Proof of identification can be a standard driver's license or Maine state ID. It does have to be valid. This year, Maine State Housing has a citizenship attestation form, which can be used in conjunction with a social security card direct from the Social Security Administration, as well as the standard driver's license or ID card. The real ID proves citizenship on its own. But if clients are not able to get that and they have their social security cards, we can do an attestation form. I like to really just make sure I'm putting an emphasis on it has to be the social security card. So social security number verification can be proved with a 1099. Maine State Housing has to see that there are no restrictions on the social security card so that we're categorizing citizenship and lawful status correctly. The other thing I just wanna make sure people know is when we are directing people to the online application, there are additional forms that are needed, that clients will have to print out and sign or download and sign electronically, such as the permission share form. All of this information is on Maine Housing's website, and Maine Housing has, broken up tutorials on how to access the online application and fill it out correctly. And it is about an hour and a half of videos, but it's broken up into each individual section, so if you're having trouble with one area over another, you can go in and kind of troubleshoot there. But just making sure that you're uploading all of the required documents. Online applications have to be reviewed by our community action team, upon receipt, and if they're complete, they get certified as soon as we receive them. Versus if you are missing documents and we have to send out that communication, you are now in the same queue as a paper application or over the phone application. And that is 30 business days from the date you receive your signed application is typically when it is certified. We know as we get into the winter months and the holidays that business days tend to drag out a lot longer. We go from about 6 weeks to 8 weeks pretty quickly. So just keeping in mind that, completeness is really important when doing the online application. The last piece I wanna, just kind of plug is that we mentioned our ESIP program. Our ESIP program is intended for people who are certified eligible for a LIHEAP benefit already. We can put them on an emergency list and try to expedite their application process, but it will not have that same turnaround as if someone is already certified for LIHEAP. And that's just because we have a small team of about 5 people, myself included, doing the day-to-day operations, and we are, like Michael said, we're reaching a community of about 2,000 households. So we are trying to be as efficient as possible, but just making sure that people know if they're getting low on fuel before they're critically low, that they start that online application and kind of get that ball rolling so that we can move quickly on our end.
And we are one of the fastest processing CAP agencies in the state of Maine, which is a very impressive feat for such a small team. So I'm very, very, very impressed with them.
Nice.
The last 2 dates that I want to put into people's heads are October 17th. MMCA will be closed. We're going to be doing an all-staff training day with Maine State Housing. So we will not be available for phone calls or any communication on that day. And then October 19th is going to be Indigenous Peoples' Day. I'm sorry, 13th is going to be Indigenous Peoples' Day. Some people may have known that also as Columbus Day. So we will not be open for business, but we will return to normal business hours the day after that. So on that Tuesday, which is the 14th, and then Monday, the 20th, we will return back to them. And then for any other email updates or communication preferences, you can always go and look at our website at Midcoast Maine Community Action.org.
Great, thank you. Before we move on, because that was a lot of really important information. Like I said, we're gonna have a Q&A after everybody goes. But if there are any clarifying questions about what was just shared from MMCA, I welcome those right now.
So I'm Neil Stanton from Westport Island, and we're starting up a new 501c3 to replace an old 501c3, so we have a lot to learn. For the emergency, you said you do already have to qualify for LIHEAP or to be in the process at least?
Yes, so ESIP is the Emergency Crisis Intervention Program. It is a statute of the LIHEAP program itself.
Okay.
And it states that LIHEAP eligible applicants who have exhausted their resources and are critically low on fuel may be eligible for a one-time delivery of up to $500. And I do just want to echo again, in previous years, ESIP has been anywhere from 800 to 1,600 between 2020 and 2024. And people can come in for multiple ESIP benefits. This year, Maine State Housing, in an attempt to reach more households and try to make it as fair as possible for everyone, has capped it at $500 per household and a one-time benefit. If we have an applicant who calls in with 3/4 of a tank, we take them at their word. We're not going out and verifying that they're at a 1/4 of a tank. If they only take the $200 benefit, then that other $300 was put back into the ESIP pool and redistributed throughout. Like you can't go and collect that other $300 later.
So, but people that aren't in LIHEAP shouldn't, it's not available.
So
true or not true?
That's a great clarifying question, Neil. So for LIHEAP, that is not true. I'm so sorry. For LIHEAP, they cannot get access to those additional benefits.
Oh,
That
I
like
misunderstood.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And then MMCA does have what I call non-LIHEAP benefits, which is a separate side of the aisle. That people can go for assistance. That's where we provide like that fuel assistance, that utility assistance for electrical.
Okay.
That's a one-time payment up to $400.
Okay.
At this time, MMCA has already exhausted all of those funds.
Right.
And that was starting from July already.
Okay.
That's about $20,000 worth. Usually in prior years, we get more funding from other community grants and funding sources. And this year, those grants unfortunately are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is like the email correspondence that you and I have had about that. It's very unfortunate. There's a need. But that's also one of the reasons why, like Alex has developed one of these meetings with our community partners and why we've kind of banded together to be like, how can we address some of this? Because sometimes people come to us for the LIHEAP benefit, and then I don't want to steal too much thunder from you folks as well. But then they'll partner with our other community partners and get that benefit, and that will help bridge them through that entire season.
Okay,
And
thank
you
you.
don't
Yeah.
want to discourage people from reaching out to the LIHEAP team if they're low on fuel. For example, if we have someone who is low on fuel, they have not started their LIHEAP application. Please have them call our office, we'll add them to an emergency list and we'll try to get the LIHEAP process expedited for them. That list does add up pretty quickly once we get into the peak of winter. But just because they're not immediately eligible for those ESIF funds does not mean that the team won't make every effort possible to get them in sooner.
Thank you.
And if they can't be helped by us, we refer out to them to make sure that they're aware of exactly. And then, sorry, I'm not gonna take too much, because you folks are gonna talk about all the stuff that they have available for options, so.
Thank you. So moving on from sort of the state level funding piece, we're gonna move into sort of the more localized on the ground work that's happening in Lincoln County. And I envisioned we would start with our community navigators first and then get to you, Brittany, to talk about CHIP. And just to keep it in the order that I have on the agenda, Hannah, if you wouldn't mind starting this next section off, that would be great.
Sure. So again, I'm Hannah Corkum and with the Community Resource Council and Community Navigator there. We have two heating assistance programs. One is the Woodchucks program, which is a volunteer-based wood delivery program for folks. Typically, if their primary heat source is wood, that's where we start, but we definitely make an attempt to assist anybody, especially like a lot of older folks with their backup heat is wood, so that they have that backed up in case the power goes out and things like that. I think last year we delivered around 80 cords of wood. Oh, and I didn't mention, we are specifically Booth Bay Harbor, Edgecombe and Southport. So we have the woodchucks that usually starts right around the beginning of August and ends. They usually wrap up in April. Our other heating program is our fuel fund, and that is for income eligible households who are in need of that gap between when LIHEAP comes in or really just anything, except for we don't typically do emergency, we're not emergency assistance. If you call on a Saturday, there's not gonna be, I mean, that's a town office call or something like that. We really try and promote with folks, keeping an eye on that gauge and because we definitely want to help, but we can't be there same day deliveries, we would just go, we would spend way too much money. Then that program is 100 gallons of fuel per heating season. And when I say income eligible, we really try and help everybody that we can. We stick to around 200% of the federal poverty limits, but life happens as we all know, and the dollar is stretching a lot less these days. So I want everybody to call, because if we can't help, then I can try and find somebody else that can. So I don't want anybody to think that income is going to be the reason that we wouldn't be able to get you some fuel assistance of some kind. We want to keep everybody warm. I'm trying to think, because I wasn't prepared for this as I thought I should be. I think that pretty much covers our fuel assistance. Oh, no, and I'm here as the navigator for residents. They can call, they can schedule an appointment and come in. If they're having troubles with the online application, I have the equipment, I have the resources and the time to try and help people with the hurdles of that online application, or even over the phone application, and really any parts or any questions that they might have. To try and keep phone calls down for you guys and to get people their benefits as quickly as possible. So if you or anybody that you know, needs a hand, please. I have cards here and my information is on this contact list here. Please don't hesitate to call. Because we want everybody to stay warm.
Thanks, Hannah. And just as a reminder, so Hannah, we have two navigators in the county. We have Hannah, who covers the Booth Bay Peninsula, and then Karen and Hagar Smith, who covers the rest of Lincoln County. And also as a reminder, I did email out when I emailed the link, and I emailed all of you who are here in person, a pager that we developed in partnership with our friends over here on the panel. That gives the basics of what everybody's talking about today. So there's a lot of nuance that they're gonna cover. I know Karen Ann's gonna mention some of those today, but there is a basic pager that can help guide you. But again, our community navigators they're always the number one contact to reach out to, and they can sort of disperse or redirect from there. So at that, Karen Ann, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that would be great.
Yeah, so similar to Hannah's program, there's a lot of similarities. We do not have like a woodchucks program, but we do. There's two people, myself and another staff person in my office, and I am also a Salvation Army rep from anywhere from Monhegan over to Newcastle, Noblesboro, Jefferson, Bremen, all of the Pemaquid, New Harbor, Bristol, South Bristol, Round Pond area. So that in itself is a source of voucher requests that can go towards an invoice of any type of heat assistance, but also what we find is nice is that when folks come through our door or call, there may be a way that we can offset a different expense that then frees up the funds so that they can put that towards their oil tank. So we try to get creative. Same thing, we just want everyone to call in. It is pretty rewarding to be able to have this team here, to be able to refer to even Hannah. I mean, Hannah and I bounce people that are in our service area back and forth too, for that. And I think as things develop, Amber and Mike always make sure to send out emails, which has been really nice, so that there is any changes, we can then interpret that for the folks that come into our office. And again, it lightens up the call volume for them when it can be a simple question that's answered about something they're confused about with their application. Either I can call over, or my staff can call over or email, and we get that interpretation from them, because it might be something that that folks call and they say, they said this. And then I get to interpret that and try to break that down and really find out what the barrier might be, and then together we work on that. Same with Brittany. We usually try to find out where people are at, and we've kind of developed like a local algorithm. If they've already applied here and they're waiting, then we can chat together and find out what other resources are there that can hold them off while they're waiting. I help process the Community Energy Fund applications. Oftentimes, if people call in to their main number, they will bump it over to myself. I'm not sure they do for you as well, Hannah. So those are done. We have a great relationship with them. If they have questions about any situation, they don't hesitate to call, and we again, there's so many organizations and funders that will get creative on extenuating circumstances. So again, we just encourage everyone to reach out because, you know, there can be some really unique circumstances that we found, whether it's, you know, somebody has had, you know, a fire or anything. We just kind of piecemeal things together for that person. And I have found that the creativity that we've all collectively come up with, I've also gone and bought, I do have a donor debit account. It doesn't have a ton of money, but there's definitely donors that want to hear if it's lacking. And I've gone and bought heating blankets for somebody that maybe their oil has run out. But they still have electricity and that might bide that time. But we also are not emergency. We are open business hours, Monday through Friday. Their phone calls back might be at 8 o'clock at night, and that's because that Navigator has chosen to work those hours to maybe get things done, but we're only obligated for business hours, Monday through Friday, so. Other than that, it's really just communicating with these folks and, seeing where people are at or, you know, just really checking what is happening for the households and then coming together and deciding. That's really about it.
Great. Thanks, Karen Ann.
Sure.
Really appreciate it. And last but not least, Brittany from Chip, who was actually the inspiration of all of us working together. Sorry to out you on that, but Brittany had asked me to pull together some regular meetings, what I now call the Heating Assistance Task Force of Lincoln County. So thank you so much for thinking of it, because I think it's been a really wonderful partnership, and we're so grateful for each and every one of you on this panel, and also especially YMCA. Wouldn't be possible without you. So at that, Brittany, you want to go?
Yeah, great, thank you. So my name is Brittany, I work for the CHIP program, and we offer a one-time per season heating boost, 100 gallons, any kind of fuel. If it's not something that can be gallons, we would give a donation to a set amount to an electric bill. We can do the propane or the kerosene, heating oil, electric, wood pellets, a ton of wood pellets. And we do have a crew that does like the wood chucks, we have the wood chips. And although one of my volunteers said, we don't create chips, Brittany. We actually offer full-size burning logs. And so they just actually delivered. We worked with some of the local high school students. They loaded up trucks and we sent out 6 deliveries yesterday morning. And we have about 10 more that we're expecting to do from our northern end later in the week. And that's just to get some things out into the community so we have space to dry our wood for next year. One of the reasons that I feel like it's important to talk and be a community is that I think, as was alluded to earlier, the amount of need and the amount of funding, it doesn't always line up very well. And last year, we usually do an average of maybe 250 households that we help serve. Last year it was 375.
Wow.
And so this is because we have to work together. It doesn't work just doing it alone. And we were able to meet that demand, which was in some ways thrilling and in some ways terrifying. Another year that was very difficult was 22-23. You probably remember when the oil prices spiked. The war in Ukraine started, and $7 a gallon meant every time we were giving 100 gallons, it was $700 out the door. And I would see money come in And I would say, okay, we can keep letting it go out, and it was sort of matching pace. And so we are able to give as much as we can depending on our donations. And so we serve people one time per season. But it is possible. I have called Karen Ann at different points and said, we're having a pause. And that happened during that season where the prices were so very high. So we do all the different kinds of fuel. We have our firewood is our volunteer run program. One of the things I love about having the volunteer run program is it really creates the community. And you probably noticed that all of our names have community in them somehow. And it's so beautiful because that is what this is about. And for me, having that volunteer piece also makes this, we're not just dealing with money, we're dealing with relationships. So we use a phone system. People call in. I take all the calls and have a brief intake. And then we don't have a particular qualifying income, but most of our households are LIHEAP eligible. People who are not LIHEAP eligible tend to have some extenuating circumstances. So they call in, we do an intake over the phone. We are working with my board members to create an application that we might be able to give to towns or to community navigators and be able to do an intake that way as well. That's in process, and we're hoping to have that maybe by the time the season starts in November. So once they do the interview, then we can make that order the same day. Now, we don't have somebody that's on the phone all the time. Same as everyone else has said, this is not an emergency service. It's one of the holes in our system is that where do people go when they have an emergency? All of our organizations, as far as I can tell, we have good relationships with the fuel company. But I can think of one fuel company was short on drivers, and it was weeks before they would be able to get to an individual that needed oil yesterday. And that is, we have a system where people are getting individual tanks of oil. And so there are flaws in that system, and it's something that we have to be aware of, that there are very few opportunities for real emergency needs. Most people in that situation are getting 5-gallon jugs from the local store, which has, I had somebody slip and fall, break a wrist, doing that, elderly that have not done this before, but we also have people that this is their life. This is how they get through the winter, is getting jugs of fuel. What else might we need to know? So our service area, we're in Lincoln County. We service central and eastern Lincoln County. And so we have 11 towns, and they're outlined here on this sheet: Alna, Freeman, Bristol, Damascotta, Jefferson, Newcastle, Noblesboro, Somerville, South Bristol, Waldoboro, and Whitefield. A lot of people want to know, why aren't you in all of Lincoln County? Because to take that leap from our service area and being able to meet the 375 spike in demand that we had last year to a bigger service area really takes a big leap from our board and from our organization. And this is what we feel like where we've grown geographically from our founding, and we've been able to sustain that at the moment. I think that sort of covers our fuel program.
Thank you, Brittany. I had on the list next, Community Energy Fund, which is a program based in Lincoln County. Todd Maurer is a part of this group, and he is often in communications coordinating some of this work. Todd was unable to make it today, but I was wondering, Brittany, you're familiar with Community Energy Fund. Would you mind just talking a little bit about it? It is something that is referral only, so those referrals need to come from GA administrators or the navigators. And I'm not sure, Brittany, if you're also able to give referrals, but.
Yeah, sometimes we sort of work in parallel. I would say that they have a very similar program and probably the Navigators can speak a little bit more. Because they are a referral program where they have a form. And I think work closely with all the town administration. And so the town office or Karen Ann or Hannah will fill out that form and send it to them, and then they'll make that decision to be able to call the fuel company. And I think they're a little bit more flexible, that if they see a strong need, I've heard from clients that they got their tank filled up. But oftentimes they'll do the 100-gallon sort of boost to get somebody through. I don't know if either of you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes there are extenuating circumstances where, our brains are going together and we say, okay, how can we make the biggest impact? And they're super good about that. They're all volunteer run, so they don't have paid staff. And so, they really appreciate all of us working together to get that put together.
Obviously, it depends on their funding that is available. I usually use them as a resource of last resort because I don't want to overuse the resource. But on the peninsula, most of those referrals go through me just so that, one person has a pulse on who has used what resource so that we're not overutilizing one and making sure that people are getting the benefits from all the available programs.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I go back and ask a question from your CHIPS role? You talked about donations. How does that work and how do you go about getting donations for your organization?
Yeah, I'd say about, actually I have it here. Just over 50% are from individuals. So we have an annual appeal. If you'd like to be on our annual appeal list, please let me know. It is very community based. We have some grants, a little over 10% of our funding comes from grants. And about 30% comes from towns and churches and organizations. Now we have two programs that we do the fuel assistance, but we also are doing home repairs. And so we divide between those two programs.
And no, I won't join your organization because I'm on Westport Island and you don't cover us.
No, we don't.
But we have learned a lot from you. Actually, I'm Donna Curry from Westport and we have our own little wood chip.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, wood chips. We actually have gone to Booth Bay and seen that operation with here's Bill Smith. A few years ago. So we have our own, but we're sort of down at the island and don't always feel like we get the information that we need to. So this is really great because we are trying to sort of do our own thing, learning from you, but getting fuel assistance is critical for us right now, especially as Neil said, because we're changing organization. I'm the GA administrator as well. So, but we have now a 501c that is trying to service all those who aren't served by GA, which is most people.
Yeah, wonderful. Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I did next, on the agenda, I had sort of other resources, and donations. So maybe we'll start just with the donations really quickly. Brittany, you talked a little bit about how to get donations to your organization, but maybe, I think Karen Ann and Hannah, and of course, Mike and Amber, if any of you take donations, I think it's just worth putting it out there really quickly. Everybody's contact info is on that pager, but yeah, if you can go down the line and just share real quickly about that, if you do take donations.
Yeah, absolutely. Midcoast Maine Community Action does take donations and a lot of it, we have very specific program funding that you can go to. For instance, we just went out and received a bunch of donations for our diapers program, which was awesome to go and see. We do have on our website a little donation click tab that you can go through. It used to be PayPal and then we switched over to a new one, so you can do that. We also take checks, people that want to drop stuff off. We do have some funding sources that are like, hey, I want to donate, send us a check. We'll get you the information for that as well. And then I think those are basically the two best forms. Please get in contact with me if you would like to go and donate to us, because we love pushing that money right out the door as soon as we get it. It doesn't stay in our office very long, I'll be honest. So, especially with like fuel prices. I remember one time we had to go and actually go and distribute only 50 gallons of kerosene at a time, because that's all vendors were doing.
Yeah.
Because of,
Feed shortage.
yeah, the kerosene
Yeah.
shortage because of
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
That was
That's right.
going on, and that was.
Using additive to.
Yep, so yes, absolutely, we'll take donations, send them out the door, and we work with local businesses as well that will go, sometimes we'll do matching. I know that I'm talking about diapers a lot, but that's the biggest one that's going on right now for us, with some of our partnerships, because we just met with somebody. But we are working with local businesses. There was a car dealership that gave us donations, and we were able to go and get that funding that went out right to a family for fuel assistance. So again, it goes right to us, and we push it right out to that consumer, and they'll get that as much as possible.
Yeah, so the two ways to donate is one directly through the Y, and that goes into the outreach portion of our office. And then we also have an outreach debit account that can go specifically to the outreach piece. It's a debit account that goes directly to families.
Thanks, Karen. Brittany, you have anything to add, or did you,
Or online or by mail. And it is, I think, there's so many worthy places to give, and it's what keeps things going.
and Hannah, CRC?
Yeah, we're so fortunate that we have most of our funding is private donations, and all of it is private donations and grants. We don't take any state or federal dollars, which gives us a lot of wiggle room with how we get to spend that money, which is really great. You can donate through our website or via check, and if you want that information, I can provide the PO box. Yeah, we greatly appreciate, I mean, we're so blessed on the peninsula to have such very generous donors, and really keep things afloat for so many community members.
Do you solicit, do any of you solicit? You know, you keep talking about you have, you know, we can go on your website and donate, but do you actually send out like letters to people, and how often do you do that?
We have an annual appeal that we
Okay.
will send out once a year, and we do have different community engagement fundraising activities throughout the year, which are a really big help. We also have a couple of different food programs, so we're able to, with the smaller get-togethers, kind of get food donations together. Peanut butter and jelly drive that was put on, just all that kind of stuff.
If I could jump into, we do, I work with the Navigator, Midcoast Maine, sorry, we cover Lincoln County as well. Every January, we do a project, it's a Project Heat Telethon, and it's in collaboration with other CAP agencies throughout the state, all of United Ways throughout the state, and WCSH, and it's the third January of the, third Thursday in January, sorry. And we take calls, and last year we didn't hit the 300,000 mark, but that money then goes out to all of us, United Way organizations, and I believe all of you are funded to that program. If we get additional funds, we just funnel it through to these organizations, because we know that they are doing that direct service. We call it our Keep Me Warm Fund. So we also, anybody who wants to donate to that can just call in. We have a lot of folks who say, I used to be a recipient and now I'm paying forward. So they're pretty heartwarming phone calls, some of the volunteers. So it's a wonderful program that's offered to help with the heating systems. That's whatever we need. And this year, sorry, last year we got it approved that it wasn't just for oil or gas, we could also extend it to heat, electric heat. So that was a nice switch in the program.
And that was one of the big things that Doreen and I worked with, was because of Maine being the leader in the nation from fuel pump or from fossil fuels to fuel pumps. there was a huge increase of electrical usage for that electric heat. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why we went through money so fast, is because we were helping out more households, smaller price point. Of like $300 or $400, that's like propane, I think we were up to like $600-700 for some of that 100 gallon of assistance out there. But yeah, and then, yes, sorry to jump ahead of you, Karen, in line, but yes, we send out a newsletter, we do municipality funding, as a cap agency, so we'll go out and do that because, we also serve like Head Start, early Head Start, full families, WIC programs. I know that this is Lincoln County, so I don't have the Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Council, sorry, Sophie, on that one, but I do have one for Saginaw that we go out and serve, so I mean. As a cap agency, I serve a lot of different realms, we do about 5 counties worth of social services, it almost equated out to like 32% of the state of Maine. That I go and oversee at one point for everything that we can distribute out for assistance on that, so heating assistance is a very much. And very large need in this county, which is why we have this stuff and. Money is important because you can't really, you can't send a hug and a mail and send it to a vendor and they won't take that as a form of payment anymore, unfortunately.
I think too, it's worth saying that, when we do the other resources as well, that converts into funds that were saved, right? So whether it's Christmas time or whether it is the diapers that are needed, or I do monthly food drives. I collaborate with Main Street Grocery and Rising Tide so that folks can donate into those and money gets converted to gift cards so that people can actually go and buy what they need, not what Karen Ann decides you need. The food, we have a help yourself shelf, and we also guide people to their help yourself shelves. And you think of $100 of groceries that they get to save on, then can go into heat assistance.
And I think, Karen, and that's a really important fact, because sometimes when you can, as an organization, get a better price point for products. If you can buy like 50 pounds of food in bulk, it's a lot cheaper than if you as an individual buying that. And then like you said earlier in our conversation, Karen Ann, that. You can then push that fund into another source that can help that family out, because sometimes not everybody's going to have heating assistance funds that are out there. So what are some other collective ways?
This guy's doesn't have a reliable electricity source.
Did we lose everybody? Oh, it looks like they're still there.
Good.
Cool.
Well, thank you for all of those additional pieces. The meeting was, of course, focused on heating assistance, but you can't talk about any of that without talking about all of the basic needs that you all help out with. Yes, Karen?
I think to that point, what's nice about all of us working together and with like the Community Energy Fund and the drive they work with, what's important to know is that when they might run into a situation, I've had a driver go to deliver fuel and the driveway wasn't plowed, they weren't shoveled. That rose a red flag that brought back to me, and then I get to have a volunteer either go out or call Scott, or any of the deputies are so willing, and the other local departments will run over to that household and really check and make sure that everybody's okay.
Thank you. Karen Ann, sort of next on the agenda, I wanted to talk about additional resources that are out there. In addition to what we talked about for heating. And one of the, and so these are like town-specific funds. I think Damerscott has one. And then other areas where there might be like a private fund or an individual that funds directly. One of those people is, I think the Cubbyhole has a fund. Would you mind talking a little bit about that if you know anything? I think you've talked to Carla maybe, or.
Yeah, I think Mark had those conversations.
Okay.
He's now in Saginaw County, but I think with, it talks about here about, to reach out to us and save your GA card, right? First, and then we work with those GA folks because there is, once we talk about a household, we sometimes find that the town's specific fund for something can go a little bit further. So then they can wait on their GA and get that, or it helps the families understand why they might not qualify for GA. So it's really about interpretation. So every town, I work closely with either the town managers or the GAs to really find out, you know, like Waldeboro and Damascotta have a Philbrook fund, and they're and to access those funds are very different in both towns. So there's ins and outs that we can help interpret in our office on how to apply or how to best make the greatest impact.
Yeah, always gets back to reach out to your community navigator.
And if your town doesn't have a community navigator, reach out to your churches. Like we have very close relationship with many of the churches in the area, and they typically will have some funding set aside for these kinds of things as well. I mean, I know there's a lot of towns here in Lincoln County, so not all of them have a navigator, and
Well,
Yeah,
none of it, yeah.
yes.
You're the default.
Well, I
You're
mean,
the-
I'm just saying, like, if there's people that in the, yeah, I know you cover.
I mean,
Yeah.
you two specifically,
Yeah,
reached
yeah.
out to Hannah or
Yeah, we've collaborated with Monhegan, we go to Somerville, we go Jefferson, it's just a matter of calling in.
How about down here, Wiscasset and Westport?
Yep,
Okay,
that's Karen Ann's territory, right?
yep.
thank you.
Yes, yeah, so every town has that access.
Yeah, and if I may, add some more to like the Damascotta specific town funding, MMCA does administer the Philbrook Fund for it itself. You have to go through the GA first. Most of the time, the GA will say, no, you're not acceptable or applicable to go through this, and then we'll be able to go and provide that assistance. One of the great things about that Philbrook Fund is they will pay for almost anything. I paid for dentures, some of that car repair that's gone on for that, some of that fuel assistance. Rent's usually a big thing that happens in that area. So we have a process and a great relationship with Damascotta to go and make that happen. That is the only town-specific one that MMCA administers, to my knowledge, on that, or like helps out with administering on that. So I don't know if there's other town ones that,
Waldeboro has the Philbrook, and they're similar, but a little bit different.
yeah.
On how they administer those funds.
And for Wiscasset and Westport Island, I was alluding to it earlier, Carla Chapman at Cubby Hole has her own fund.
Yeah.
So people are welcome to go there and talk to her indirectly. It's not a formal program or anything. She just started
Okay.
fundraising it. I think her mom might have needed some assistance or something, and she had money left over, and so she is paying it forward and takes donations as well.
Yep, so can I make it? Yeah.
It's the Cubby Hole is the restaurant. It's right near Wiscasset, and her name is Carla Chapman.
And if I could add, for Wiscasset and the contiguous towns, Alma, Edgecombe, Westport Island, Dresden, Woolwich. We have the Wiscasset Female Charitable Society. And that gives out up to $750 a year to single women in those towns, and that can cover typically a sort of emergency stuff that will help take them over. So that would be heating assistance, utilities, car repairs, rent, all sorts of that nature. So it just has to be a single woman in a household without a partner, a male partner, or a male partner who is incapacitated.
They actually have helped us. I think the president.
Gail is on.
Yes, she's on Westport, so has been very helpful. Yes, yeah.
So, and our turnaround is typically 2 to 3 days to make a decision. And then whatever time it takes for their heating assistance to get delivered to them. I don't know. And we pay the vendor directly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The other thing that I like to talk about with our community partners, is the food banks that are in this area. They are a massive support for this. They have helped out so many people, and I greatly appreciate them and that whole food insecurity that's going on in the state of Maine. how they're trying to combat that. Again, that goes back to, if we can take the money from one area and relocate it and put it into another, we can get some of that assistance going, pay for some of this stuff. They now also have our diapers that we are distributing out as well. So if people are looking for odds and ends that are getting added to that, I think they also have a partnership with some of the, cleaning supplies as well as some of the feminine hygiene products that are needed right now, for this area. So I think that's important that it's not just food that's going on in some of those areas. It's also some of those other household needs that are important as well to make our dollars stretch even more. As we said, it's getting tougher and tougher.
Can I bring it up a resource if it's of interest, public transportation options for Lincoln County, it's for all of the United Way area, so it includes the greater Midcoast area, but we just added a new resource for Lincoln County in there. I also have a heating assistance guide that covers our area as well, including just the numbers, generally how much it gives, but is it a telephone number that folks can call if you want to hand it out to folks. And then we have our 211 quick card, which is just for the Midcoast. 211 is statewide, but we do Midcoast cards for our area. Folks really like them. They're really discreet. You can just tuck them in a little pocket and they fold out. And they have a whole bunch of different categories. And the Canadian Navigators are listed, as well as all the partners here. So if you wanted to take some, if you have an office, feel free to take them. We have lots more to give out, so we want to get the word out. And when there's any other kind of resource.
Thanks, Dorian. And yeah, this is the point where I'd love to get some questions from folks, from the audience. We've had some informal questions already, so if you don't have any questions, that's fine, but this is an opportunity to ask.
Hannah, you mentioned that you keep the private funding that gives you more flexibility for doling it out. Can you just talk about that a little bit more? Like how much money are you leaving on the table by staying in that model? And like what's the benefit of the flexibility? How much flexibility? So it's also kind of a question around qualifying. It is qualifying by all the technical applications. Is that something that you have a little more flexibility with? So I don't know if I'm being clear.
Your
funding,
but I don't know how far I want to go down this rabbit hole.
Feels like.
In terms of like my personal flexibility, I am able to go at everything in a case by case basis, and there's always extenuating circumstances, and somebody who is really well off, but one of the primary breadwinner loses their leg and they can't, blah, blah, blah. We're able to jump in and say, okay, we can help with the mortgage and the bills for a month until you're back on your feet and you can, you're getting money coming in and that kind of thing. Whereas I've worked at plenty of state agencies, you don't have that flexibility. It's very cut and dry. If you're at 150%, then we can help. If you're not, we can't.
And if we're local though, we're gonna be backstop local on Westport Island.
Right.
People are gonna apply to the more formal resources. But if we're kind of a backstop, is it?
Well,
it's good to have that kind of flexibility or not?
And I guess with when I say flexibility too, we're able to fill in those holes. Like Karen Ann was talking about, money that is not being, that they don't have to spend on a car repair is money that they can spend on fuel. So if we've run out of fuel options, but something else comes up, it's just really a matter of being able to get creative with the funding that we have.
And what do you give up from a funding perspective by doing it that way?
Your soul, I don't know.
No. So actual like dollars, you're giving up dollars.
So I can provide a very good perspective on that.
Great answer.
And again, like, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole for this, but like Hannah provided a really good example. In our world, a LIHEAP application from, and we just got this email the other day, somebody said, my husband broke their leg. And so their income is dramatically changed right now. They technically have to process a whole new application because at that snapshot in time of when that application came in, I'm gonna be fictional here, they made $2,000. That put them over that. And then because if they get a new application, husband or partner is out of work for that momentarily time, they might qualify then, because then at that point in time, it's not two incomes anymore, it's only one income.
Yeah.
With federal and state funding, we have to do
Yeah.
that citizenship documentation right now because of those rules, and that's the stuff that like Amber was talking about, if like now. And I'm very generous that United Way was able to go and find a funding source to help us with finding amount of money that would help out with birth certificates, IDs, because real IDs are not cheap for everyone, and not everybody can afford that. Or like a birth certificate is not cheap. We found a funding source that would help pay for that, so qualify for LIHEAP assistance.
Yeah.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking, you folks do not require some of that stuff with
Oh,
that
gosh,
documentation.
no, it's really not about the application, it's about the conversation.
Yep.
And we're able to, sit down and spend the time and our application is a page. And obviously for different things, we might need a little bit
Fuel
more.
is different than food.
Yep.
Right, but
Yep.
it's really about being able to take the
And-
time and have that conversation.
I mean, you guys have to do the state and federal, that's-
Yep.
And that's
But-
their red tape, and we don't
Yeah,
have that.
and that's kind of, if we're local, we don't necessarily,
Mhm.
because we're not leaving money on the table from state and federal.
Want to be able to, show where your funding is going, because
Yeah.
your funders, your donors,
Yeah.
at some point are gonna say, hey.
And we all get audited.
Right,
So I mean, like, we all have to show the different funding sources. We have a different set of rules.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, that red tape discussion point where like our economic stability side, non-LIHEAP benefits. That requirement is a much shorter application. It's income eligible. If you're good, if you got this, that's great. LIHEAP, sometimes somebody might be making six figures and still needing that assistance, but with like medical deductions, that can go in and help that. I mean, we also have limitations of what I can pay staff or what I can't pay for things. Prime and Start, I don't know if folks have ever run out of fuel before, but I mean, like, you have to pay for a Prime and Start. Some of my funding sources will not pay for that. It is clearly defined in saying we will only pay for the product. Some of them will not pay for that delivery of the product. So like, I have to get creative and find a way to pay not only for that, but I have to pay for the staff time that takes to go and process the document, process the application, talk to the vendor, and sometimes it's 2 to 3 to 4 hours. And respectfully, even though we're all nonprofits, you still have to pay your team to go and do that stuff. And
Thanks, that was good. I appreciate it.
well, and that's exactly it. Sometimes it's almost as much as the fuel delivery that will get charged for some of that fuel. And so like, we have to go put that into perspective. And some people, I can flex it, I can wait. Sometimes stuff happens in life and they can't.
Thank you.
So I have a question. So it sounds like a lot of the funding comes out of general assistance, sort of like referrals that come from general assistance from the municipal level. Is that right? A lot of.
I think
Usually what happens for me, I can only speak for my towns, is the towns will reach out. Because they have someone in need and we're putting our heads together on how to make the greatest impact.
Yeah.
Before they actually apply, so that.
Do you
Otherwise,
find that some municipalities are better about that than others?
Mhm.
So what are the ones where they're very good at it?
define.
So
I don't know that we should call them out.
So general assistance has a very low
Mm.
income threshold, like you have to be making essentially nothing to qualify for
Okay.
general
Yeah.
assistance.
Like less than minimum wage sometimes.
Yeah.
And the statute says that they have to use all local resources.
And
first.
so, I mean, for our towns, I mean, and our towns donate to us to help kind of fill in those gaps, but they will refer to me if they're not able to help, and I know what kind of those guidelines are, and I know when someone will probably qualify, so I'll send them to their
Mm.
town before they're able to use our assistance, and it's kind of just spreading it around, because the problems we're seeing now are not just about 100 gallons of fuel. You're looking at thousands of dollars worth of problems.
Yeah, it's $2,500 CMP bill.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Or they need a fuel inspection in order to go and get product in the tank. And again, some of our funding sources won't pay for that fuel inspection, which makes it more difficult, so I have to wait on, and I'm saying this as respectfully, I have to wait for them to find the money for that. So they can get that fuel inspection done and then they can get product.
So do you find that town offices are pretty good about referring people to you? Or do you feel like some of them just say, no, we can't help you and that's it?
And on the peninsula, they're all great, and
They're all
we-
great.
we've really developed a great working relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked all over the state though, and yes, there are some towns that are a little more helpful than others.
Yeah.
But-
I've had some,
There's some people that are more helpful than
Yeah.
others, you
Yeah.
know, so.
and I've had some towns that are like, Mike, I would love to like give you a space to go and sit down, do applications, I'll even process the applications for you. Because of how some of the guidelines are in a grant, I can't have them process the application, but like, that's one of the reasons why we started this great partnership with everyone, is telling them, how do you do these online applications? How do we get this process in? They might not be a case manager per se, but they want to go and help our community members. So I mean, like, there are some that are better than others. Some of them have better equipment or resources, some of them respectfully just don't have staff. Because they either are limited in their hours, their budgets. You know, we used to be able to do outreach where we would go to like all the subsidized housing communities, sit there, send out a staff. That got pulled from our funding. So like, I can't pay for mileage to go and send staff to go out there to do that. So I mean, like, most of our applications are repeats. Or from previous year applicants or word of mouth. You know, and then like with the great resources that we have here at our table and with our community partners that are not identified. Collectively, I think we get a lot done. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still gaps that need to be addressed and a lot of big picture stuff that we just can't solve. We're not gonna be able to do that today though, unfortunately, which is frustrating.
Sometimes it's like putting a puzzle together. It might be that Brittany and Community Energy Fund can go halves on some repair or something like that, and then there's an emergency delivery, and I might pay the emergency delivery fee,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's where that communication, that collaboration comes into play. So.
And it all comes with a release. You know, that if they sign a release, they allow us to put that puzzle together.
And I would say too, I don't know what your experience is, if you've tried to work with towns and then had some success or not. But I would piggyback off of what Michael said, that I find that it really does depend on how many resources the town has. Several towns do have some pot of money that gives them a little bit of flexibility to be a little kinder. It doesn't feel very good when if you have to say no all the time. I don't think that feels very good for the person that is administering. But those are relationships that you're developing. We do get referrals from all different sorts of agencies. We do a lot of outreach of putting our cards in the community, and a lot of people who have heard through word of mouth is a big way for people to connect.
Do we have any questions from our online friends? You all have been pretty quiet, so I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask questions. Robin, if you want, you're welcome to come off mute and ask this question, or I can ask on your behalf. Okay, so Robin from Noblesboro says, we have residents who come in every year for Community Energy Fund. We don't question most as we see them year over year. Should we ask more questions or request more information regarding income expenses? We don't qualify for GA, so we try to help with that. I wonder if Hannah and Karen Ann might have Dr. Brittany.
I know that when I started the program, I really made a push when I started working for the Resource Council, I made a push to make sure that we were screening everyone before we provided assistance to make sure that and see if they qualified for LIHEAP. And it made a really big difference. People didn't know about LIHEAP, they didn't know, any of the process, so getting them signed up and getting that benefit, and that doesn't mean they don't qualify still for our program. It just means that they're utilizing the other resources out there. So those are the kind of questions that I want to make sure are being asked with everybody that I talk to. Is, are you using the other available resources? Because we don't know next year, we could have nothing to offer, and we don't want to create that dependence on just our program. So
Or it might be reduced again and again and again on what could be out there, options.
And to answer Robin's question, I don't think she needs to ask any other questions. I think referring them over and we can help screen them out depending on, excuse me, what program that they fit under or that algorithm that we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
send them our way.
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe referring them to you, Karen Ann, and then you can kind of go from there as Hannah described and sort of make the puzzle work.
Sure thing.
Great. Kim James, I see you're off mute. I don't know if you had a question. Or you're just off mute. Any other questions in the room or chat? Well, if there are no questions, I won't hold you here any longer, except I do have some closing remarks. First of all, thank you for coming, thanks for joining, especially to our panelists. Thank you for your continued collaboration around this. It feels like very beneficial past year, so we'll continue to work together.
Thank
I'm happy
you.
to facilitate that. I will send a link out of the recording of this meeting. The power did go out, so I'll review it and try to edit it for brevity. But I'll send a link for the recording and we'll post it on our YouTube page. Where you can find other really interesting workshops as well that have to do with various other topics. I'll also send this PDF out again, of the pager that we developed. That's a handy thing to keep on hand. Scott, hopefully you take care of that in your patrol vehicle and.
I'll put them up at the pro office.
Thank you, appreciate that. And then finally, again, this pager is sort of for people who work with people in need. It's not exactly public facing. It gives you an idea of who to reach out to first, which is always the community navigator. For the general public though, Maureen brought some great resources, so pick those up on your way out. Those are 3 really great, like kind of pagers and cards that are really good to have on hand. And if anyone online doesn't have those, you can always reach me and I can get those to you, or or I can get them to me and then you can come to our office and pick it up, or we can arrange for a drop off another time. But I guess that comes to the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you, everybody, and please stay in touch.
Thanks. This is perfect.